Hello, I'm Craig Seibert.
I'm Stephen Duenas.
We're the hosts of Meet Me at the Table podcast. It's focusing mainly on Christianity and how it's lost its personal connection to people. But we're going to leave the table open to discuss other areas as well. We're normally going to tackle women in leadership roles in the church, acceptance of those in the LGBTQ plus community, or racial indifferences. And we do set the table for all sides to hear their sides in a respectful manner. Today is a little bit more somber of an episode that we're going to talk about, but also both personally charged, politically charged in some points, confusing at some points. What other adjectives can we put on this? Because I mean, wow.
Yeah, disappointing.
Disappointing is a good one. We're talking today about a school shooting. And obviously there was one that just happened recently. But in general, school shootings, mall shootings, live shootings, mass shootings, something where some, amount of people, I don't know, do we actually get a determination of what sets the value of that? Is it 3 or more? Or is it 5 or more? Or...
A quick Google search says it's 4 or more.
And, where do we start? It's actually, I guess the better question is where do we stop? Where do we stop with this? Where do we end what this is doing? And you and I talked a little bit before we started that there are two sides of this, two major sides to it. I'll kind of let you fill that in, those two major sides of what they are.
Yeah. It's before we go further in this podcast, this is like most episodes, it's all opinions. We do throw in some facts that Google says, and everything Google says is obviously right. But this episode is going to be specifically, majorly just our opinions and our thoughts, and also, like most episodes, an ask of where do we go from here. And that's kind of what we do with our other episodes with the whole church stuff. Where do we go from here? Because when is enough. So we're going to provide our opinions, and we really would like to hear from your opinions, because our opinions are just our opinions and yours is yours. So if we can kind of eventually come together and try to figure out when is enough, instead of going, where the left is more praying in thoughts and demanding change against the right, and the right is stubborn and saying, well, our constitutional rights are coming up against us and we can't change it all because it's not guns, it's mental health. But then you have the right that says, well, we can't help with healthcare because it's not supposed to happen. It's socialist. And then you have the left that doesn't even make change when it has the opportunity to really make the change because they have the majority. So we have this bickering left and right, and we have everybody doing what we're doing right here, is just talking and not actually making change. And as you could tell, it's just frustrating, having 3 kids of my own, having a kid that is in public school. And I say public school because usually when you say your kid's in school, you don't have to emphasize it's public school. Well, my wife and I grew up only in private school, and making that jump from private to public school was very, very tough because it's a completely different environment to us. And then having to send our kid to a public school and seeing a shooting like this, where we don't have the infrastructure in the schools to protect our kids. I'm very heated. I'm very frustrated. I'm very saddened because, just like police officers, when they have to put on the badge every day and leave their house, they kiss their wives every day or husbands every day to say goodbye. While we should do that with our kids too, I feel like it's even more so now because this is just sad. This is, I don't even know what to say because it's sickening.
Yeah, you just like totally opened the can and just blew everything out all at once. But we'll unpack it a little bit here. Yeah. But it's funny. I actually saw a joke cartoon on one of the social media sites I was on the other day, where it was a little kid, dressing up like he was going out to war, like he was going out to play with his friends, and he's like, "Bye, Mom, I'm going to school." And I'm like, "Really? This is what this is what we've come to." And
yeah,
let's start with left. Let's start with prayers and gun laws and the things to do to prevent this and the things to do to stop this is there is nothing wrong with praying for people. There's nothing wrong with praying that things get better, or praying for the people that are going to have to suffer through losing a child. Sometimes it's their only child. Sometimes it's one of many that now the whole family is losing something. The brothers and sisters are going to lose a part of their life. There's nothing wrong with praying for people about that. There's also nothing wrong with reaching out to people and offering direct prayer or direct help or something. And left tendencies do that. The left usually likes to reach out in some way. So there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not stopping it. That's not stopping the progress of these shootings happening. Not getting worse, not only getting worse, but getting more frequent. How many did you say
Yeah.
this year so far?
So let's time mark this. We're recording this episode a little early because
Oh yeah.
I'm heading out. So today is May 29th. So as of May 29th, there has been 214 mass shootings in America in just 2022 alone.
So that's four or more
It's four more.
in a public place with a gun.
And that's
of
four
some
more
type.
since this shooting that we're discussing.
Okay. So again, the left, are we, do we ban guns? I mean, let's go to the extreme. Let's just go all the way to the extreme.
Mhm.
No one has a weapon except for the military or police. Is that viable? Is it, I mean, who's going to, we're going to get an explosion of comments just off me saying that.
Yeah.
What is, that's what the left would probably, I don't know. Do they really want to go to that extreme?
I think I've seen a change, at least, on social media, I've seen a change of people where maybe a couple years ago it was like, yeah, get rid of them. And then now it's more like, we're not asking you to get rid of your guns per se. There just needs to be regulations. And I mean, this last two shootings, so the two shootings that we're kind of a little bit going to discuss is more the school shooting, but also the shooting that was in Buffalo
Yeah.
was two 18-year-olds.
Yes.
Like, and I heard an
They can't,
argument.
they can't buy alcohol.
They can't buy alcohol. Um, I heard an argument of someone saying, well, even in the military, they're 18 sometimes when they join, sometimes 17. So they're allowed to have guns. So are we saying that we have to ban it for them? And that's not at all what we're saying at all. It's so tough, man.
Well, that's a regulated area. I mean, you're talking about when the military, they're not just handed a gun and say, walk around with this all day and do whatever
Yeah.
you want.
And the
You know,
major background checks that they have to go through.
yeah. So, okay, maybe we don't want to go to that extreme.
Yep.
So maybe their voicing of let's meet in the middle is them trying to find a solution that will stop what's going on. Okay, so we don't want to take away all guns. We just want to make it a little more regulated. Okay, so are we taking away some of the guns? Are we removing some of them from society? Are we, when we talk about regulation, how strict do we want to get with that regulation?
Yeah.
Is it you personally? Am I doing a background check on you, or am I doing a background check on your entire family that you live with?
Hmm.
Like, honestly, my son is ADHD and borderline autism, high functioning. My wife has had counseling for mental illness in the past, not now, but has in the past. Does that mean now I cannot purchase a weapon? Is it the person, or is it the household, or is it your living arrangements? Because do I go to a job every day that is extremely stressful, and that even though I don't have any mental issues at home, when I go to work, I want to, for lack of better words, I want to shoot somebody?
Yeah.
Do I have to take that in consideration? So where's the line drawn on that? What's your feelings on that?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone that has a security clearance, and they were saying to be able to get a security clearance, um, there's a extensive background check just for their job. And that doesn't just entail looking at them. They have to insert family members and friends around them. And then they do a background check to check, their story on you. And then from there, they're like, okay, hey, do you know somebody else that knows this person, and then they go check with
Yeah.
that person just for you to be able to get a security clearance. So we look at that and just being able to do a background check on an individual who's 18 years old who wants to buy a gun that potentially, yes, can go kill somebody. We're just checking that one individual, and that's crazy. And one thing to say is a lot of times with the left they say assault rifles. Well, let's do some education. Assault rifle. It's not actually called assault rifle. It's called Armalite. Um,
So why do you think that is? I mean, when you said that to me before we started, I had something in my head, but why do you think that is?
well, I think the reason why they say assault rifle is because a lot of times it's assault rifles that are killed. But I think if we look at the numbers, it's more handguns that kill people.
Well, I guess in general, the word assault,
Hmm.
I think, is the issue that they have. I
Yeah,
think the fact that you've put that on a weapon, the name of that on a weapon, terrifies people, scares people. And I don't know if that's come out of something to where the media just really wants to hype up their scare. Hey, we want to scare tactic everyone into thinking that these things are bad, or if that came from something else. I'd love to know the etymology of that word of how assault rifle got its name
I mean,
from
if I
Armalite.
come over there right now and I punch you in the face, that would be an assault.
Yeah,
If I
that's what I'm
shoot you,
saying.
that would be an assault too. So it's funny how that really triggers the right when that's said.
Yeah,
Like, why it's not called assault? Well, why does it bother you that bad? Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, it's sickening that we're getting mad at names, not the shootings.
right. Well, let's
So
let's flip that script though. We just talked about um, getting restrictions and being able to do background checks and full background checks for somebody to get a weapon. Let's
mhm.
flip that to the other side. And how do you think that affects the Second Amendment? And I'm going to step back here for a second, hold that question in your head. We've talked a couple times already on a couple of our podcasts about words in the Bible as being related to a time frame, and things that have been said were said for that time and meant something at that time but have totally changed.
Yeah,
um, the Second Amendment is a document that was written over 200 years ago for a country that was beginning and starting up and needed to protect themselves from things.
it's funny when you think about that too, because a country that completely came here and killed everybody off.
Yeah, well, that's total
Sorry.
different podcast right there. But no, but I think about that as bring that into the perspective as well. If we're looking at a document that was written so many years ago, you know, we're not trying to take that right away. We're trying to update that right for the world as it is today.
Which is what
Guns were
amendments are.
not, yeah, exactly. And guns were not as easily accessible when that
Or
document was written.
what
Huh?
they're made today is not how they were made back then.
Oh, not even close. I mean, both volume and ability to kill, or ability to fire, I guess, without going too deep into it. Um, you know, ability to be changed, modernized. One weapon's bought this way, it can be transferred and changed into do something else. The ability to do that, those were all things that were never considered when they wrote this document.
Yeah.
uh, you know, Look at all the documents or all the amendments that were written and that have changed that Constitution along the way. Some of those has even been either done away with or updated. Why not this one? What? So if us back checking every single person and who they're living with, maybe even to the grade of what you're talking about with having clearance, does that infringe on that right? Does that infringe on that Second Amendment?
I mean, where I say I don't think it does. But again, like, what do you do? I don't like. It's so. I agree when you have all these people bickering on Facebook when someone says, this is sickening. What do we do? And then always the question. When I posed the question, it was, well, what do you do? I don't know. Like, it's such a tough conversation because you're gonna piss off everybody, and
Yeah.
I'd rather be pissed off than pissed on. So I'd rather be pissed off than get shot. So I don't know what to do, but at the end of the day, we got to do something. We got to stop just praying for these people because prayer is not going to bring these people back.
Well, and you've touched on something perfect right there. If the argument is against or for the Second Amendment on one side and for more regulation on the other. And that argument has been going back and forth and back and forth. Well, we've not gotten more regulation.
Hmm.
No, more regulation has not happened.
Yep.
More background checks have not happened. More investigation into mental illness before someone purchases a weapon has not happened. None of that has happened because we've stuck with status quo. And you're right, it is not working.
Hmm.
It is not even close to working when you're talking about 19 children, 11 and under, have been killed. I
Yep.
mean, just say that out loud one more time to yourself. Children were killed in a school. Someone walked into there with a weapon. That's the status quo. The status quo is not working. And I'm not arguing for one side or the other in this. I'm just saying that if you look at I mean, take it like a job. If you go into your job and you fail every single day, but you don't do anything to change it, you're not going to have a job.
Yep.
So why are guns still readily available to everyone if it's not working? If this way is not working?
Yep.
That's
I
my
mean,
opinion side of it.
no, I mean, we've seen in the last couple years just places that are supposed to be fucking safe.
Yeah,
A school,
exactly. A
a
school,
church, a freaking store.
even malls. Yeah, like malls
Malls.
and stores.
You're supposed to feel safe going there. And we're bitching on social media about taking away something or changing something to be able to prevent that. And it's, well, why didn't the school have better security? That's a topic, yes.
Okay.
Well, why didn't the cops stop it? Well, that's a huge topic, especially in this Texas one, because
Yep.
there's reports that they were stopping parents from trying to save them, but cops were saving their own kids. That's a
Yeah.
topic to talk about right there, but maybe not
Yep.
today. I don't know. All these things, it's sickening, man. It's so sickening. And it's hard to like get muster up the words to be able to talk about this because again, it's freaking kids that were killed. It's black people that were gunned down and killed, and we
Targeted.
just and all
Targeted.
targeted, and all we do is complain back and forth, and there's no change. And
Yeah.
it's like, what do we do? What do we do? This and people keep saying, well, this stuff happens everywhere. No, really, this at this quantity does not happen in other countries that are
Yeah.
established like us.
Yeah. There's a lot of recordings and video of people coming out from other countries about that right now and talking about that. I just heard one again this morning on a social media site where they talked about, I think was it Australia, or I think it might have been Australia. Anyways, basically where they basically banned guns at that point, and they've had zero in the last 10 years. I'll have to look up the video and see if maybe I can link to it. But you're right, it's not. I don't know. Like you said, I think you've got words behind you. When is enough enough? And I think we're past that point. I think we're way past that point because
Yes.
nothing has. Again, it goes back to that same adage. If you're doing the same thing, nothing has changed, and the results are still bad, and this is bad. This is horrible. Then something. Then maybe you need to relook at it again, and maybe the people that are on the right and they're saying you can't take away our guns, you can't take away our gun rights, can look at it and just look at the track record and say that's not working. It's not working. Period.
No, I mean, if we also look at the historic data, I mean,
Yeah.
since the
Oh,
90s,
Jesus.
I looked at a chart of like mass shootings since the 90s to here, and it was just like, here's the 90s, then all of a sudden, whew,
Yep.
well, so what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, I am at the age of where I lived through Columbine. I lived through the DC sniper, and that was probably. And Craig, you can please let me know if this is something you had to do in school. But like we had to learn about school like safety after Columbine. They completely had to change everything off of after Columbine. During the DC sniper, we had to go outside and practice zigzagging because
Yep.
we were in the area of that. And
I, I was past that, but ours was, and this even is more of a glimpse of what I'm talking about when I talk about time frames.
mhm.
In my time, it was nuclear. Get under your desk to cover your head for nuclear fallout or explosions. Um, what bomb shelters to go into, what parts of the building do you need to go into when a bomb goes off or an explosion goes off that's a nuclear. In yes, we have different time frames, but what you've said fits exactly with the time frame, that you're matching what is happening now. Again, shouldn't have to, but we did go through this sort of the same things. And it's funny because my son actually asked last night, in Columbine, what happened, how many people got killed, and I've snap off the top of my head said I think it was 20 or 30. 12. It was only 12. And I'm like, I don't remember it being that small. But it's not that it's that small. It's what you said about the 90s. That's it, just that was the start. That was where it became something to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
And
don't
the thing
know
is,
where to.
these shooters, let's just call them dumbasses because that's what they are.
Yeah,
They know
cowards. I like the word cowards, but go
cowards,
ahead.
but the thing is, like, they know that in a way they'll get away with it
Yeah.
because nothing will ever change. The media will
Nope.
continuously talk about it. The left will complain and say that the right's not doing anything, even when they have the majority. And the right will just bitch that their constitutional right is being infringed. So they could just go out and it's a free for all. And like that is what is disgusting about this.
Yeah. And there's nobody that wants to do, and I'm not patting our backs, but there's nobody that wants to do what we're doing and open a table and sit down and say, I hear you. I hear you don't want to give up your gun. I hear that you're a protective person. You have your guns locked in a case. You own as many as you want, but each one of them are locked up. I hear that. I get it. I get that. But this is still happening.
When
And
is
I
enough
appreciate
enough?
you, and I appreciate your wants and your needs when it comes to a weapon or a firearm. But something's got to change everywhere else. Something's got to change for people in lower income cities. People has to change in things have to change in places where guns are readily available for younger people. Things are going to have to change where people don't lock their guns up, and they leave them laying out for people to get a hold of. I don't know. You're right. Where do we draw the line? But the line needs to be drawn soon.
Yeah, and when it's your kid, when it's your family member, when it's your cousin, when it's your uncle, your aunt, your father, your mother, I mean your kid, like, is that one enough is enough for you? Like, I did not always think this way. It took conversation with my best friend to be able to see a different perspective. It took me traveling the United States. It took me traveling out of our country to see a different perspective, and that America is not just the only, you know, America is not where Jesus lived.
True.
um,
That is a 100% true statement.
it's one thing that really bothered me on this one. I'm going to pull up my phone and read it. Is thinking that I could potentially one day receive this text message that the parents at this school received. And I just want to read it because to me, when I read this and saw this, I was like, holy moly, like I could receive this one day. And that, as a parent, is terrifying. It says, important message. Robb Elementary parents, please do not pick up students at this time. Students need to be accounted for before they are released to your care. You will be notified to pick up students once all are accounted for. Reunification site for Robb students. Robb Elementary students are being transported to the Civic Center for reunification. The Civic Center will be under a secure status until all students are accounted for. Parents, please do not pick up students at this time. You will be notified to pick up your student once all are accounted for. And then it says, please acknowledge. I mean, imagine receiving that text message because your student is at a school and they're saying, don't pick up your student. They have to all be accounted for.
And the media's already screamed it across every every outlet they
They
could.
knew what was happening.
Yeah. And to get that after seeing that on TV or watching that on TV would just, still can't imagine. I mean, my son's going to be 15 this year. And he's in high school, but I still just, every time something comes on the news, my heart sinks.
Yeah.
And I don't think that ever gets any better. But like you said, we shouldn't have to worry about the kids in a place like this. I want to unpack real quick. I know we're trying to keep this as a short one, but I do want to unpack what you said about police and security on the school grounds and everything. I it's a fine line between locking down a school and making it a fortress, and allowing kids to not grow up in a place where they feel like they're in a fortress. It's that balance of, do we make them feel like they are in prison, or do we make them feel like I can go to a place and be safe? How do you do that? I mean, what do the police play in this? What role do they play in this?
I think that's what's tough about this is like everybody has their own opinion of what can be done. And it's like, well, if we had more police presence there, or if we had security guards there, or if we had more cameras, could prevent them. Like, why do we have to think that way though?
Right.
Like,
Well, true, but there's a big push to limit police, anyways,
yeah,
to bring the numbers of police down, and what they can and can't do. So that makes it worse. But you're right. Do you put metal detectors? Do you lock the school down literally lock the door so where no one can get into the school every day, all day, every day? How does that make a child feel? I
yeah,
mean, when you grow up with that, and knowing that when you go someplace you're going to be locked in because of your safety, that's got to do some mental, things to a child
yeah. I
at
mean, we
that
went
point.
to a church that had to hire a police officer just to be present, just to be able to go in a church, and like that alone, when you think about that, like, wow, like we have to have a police officer present to potentially prevent or deter somebody from walking in and shooting us up.
But hear me out. Is that one police officer going to be enough with the way the laws and weapons are right now?
Yeah. You
I
know,
mean,
it took
yeah, go ahead.
it took an hour for the police to even do anything at this school.
Yeah.
Um, and that, you know, what is it going to take? Is it going to take photos? Is it going to take to see these videos? I mean, when
Yeah. The
when
guy in Buffalo filmed everything
yeah,
live on Twitch.
I mean, for Columbine, I remember seeing photos and videos after that. I mean, they used to show that stuff all the time, um, and
Yeah,
that was hard. That
there
was
was
heartbreaking.
security footage. Yeah, there was security footage on that one as well.
I mean, this guy
Um,
just walked right in with
yeah,
unlocked door,
yeah,
was able to do whatever he wanted. The police had to wait for the janitors to unlock the door. So what is it? Do we need better training? I mean, it's a huge topic, but like, what could be done? You know, if even the police, the people who are supposed to be there for us when at times of need, can't even get to the person that is doing this stuff.
yeah. And like I said, even if they do, they're outgunned. I mean, you're
Yeah,
talking a standard police officer with a 9mm or a Glock is can be far outgunned almost instantly. I
yeah,
mean, if you're walking up against an Armalite weapon with armor piercing rounds, which you can go to any gun show and obtain that type of stuff.
yeah,
I mean, it's getting a little less easy to do that, but you can get that stuff, and that's who's going to stop something like that?
yeah. And
I
I
mean,
hate having to ask, like, does an 18-year-old need an AR?
no. I
Like,
mean, I'm sorry,
but then
that was the
you know,
knee jerk reaction, but no.
yeah, no, like, but like then it's like, we can probably look at the data and show that there's probably another 30-year-old or 40-year-old that has done this too. So like,
Yeah,
it's, but if we could start somewhere instead of saying, what we're saying here, which is everybody's saying, like, what do we do? Like, can we at least start somewhere instead of just, well, it's my constitutional right to have an AR. But like at the end of the day, like, why does an 18-year-old need
yeah.
that?
Well, why does anybody? You can put. I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
don't.
no, I get it.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. Again, if you already have them and they're locked, and you can prove that they're locked and stuff like that, I don't want to come to your door and take your weapons. I grew up with my dad. Listen to my dad talk about that Castro in Cuba, that's the first thing he did when he took over the country was he went door to door and took weapons from everyone, took their weapons from their hands. And that's how you create a dictatorship. I'm not asking for that. I'm not saying that that has to happen, but we need to stop things going forward. Things go, from here on need to stop. That stuff shouldn't be sold. It shouldn't be sold to 18-year-olds in general, period. But it shouldn't be really sold to anybody at this point.
Yeah.
Again, your question, what do you need it for? What in the hell do you need it for? Don't give me home protection. You can get home protection with an MP5. You can get home protection with a 45, as long as you're trained in it and you know what to do with it, you can protect your home with that weapon.
Yeah.
I don't know. One last thing I want to talk about though is before. Did this person give any indications before? Well, we know in the Texas shooting that he made a text. You gave me the timeline. What was he made a text to someone.
I think it was, and then also something on social media. He was discussing it on social media.
Yeah. Sends a private message claiming he has shot his grandmother and is going to carry out a shooting at his school. He said it. And, again, not to give away too much of what you do, but, the government has the ability to catch those things. Well, now you're talking about infringing upon another right. Well, it's my freedom of speech, my freedom to say those things. But could it have stopped that? Would that have stopped 21 people from being killed senselessly, 19 of them children? I'm fine with you watching my text then.
Yeah.
If I say, accidentally say as a joke to one of my friends, hey, I want to shoot this guy, or hey, I want to, I need to get a gun or something like that, and I get a phone call talking to me about it, fine, perfectly fine. If that would have saved 19 children from being killed, I'm fine with that. I have no problems with that at all. And if you do have a problem with that, you're the problem at that point. Yeah. That's my opinion.
I mean, there's countless documentaries on Netflix that talk about when the government prevented a terrorist attack from happening off of doing that very thing. So why are we just stopping it when it's, when it's outward terrorism coming inward? Well, we have a lot of terrorists inward now.
Yes.
I mean, we got to look at these people. What are they doing? They're terrorizing people. Just because someone's brown does not make them a terrorist.
Right. And to take that even a step further, just because someone has mental problems doesn't make them a terrorist either.
Yeah,
but
that's what's tough about this is saying that it's a mental health issue. That
okay.
Really, yeah.
Let's run with it. Let's say it is a mental health issue. What are you going to do about that? Yeah. Do you start monitoring people a little bit better? Do you start paying physicians a little bit more to do the things that they need to do? Do you stop charging people to get the help that they need in that area? If this is a problem and this is the one problem, the argument for national health care has been out there for years, where you don't have to pay for anything, but let's start picking and choosing. If these are the problems that are causing mass shootings, then let's say mental health field, you start getting free things. People can go get a mental health checkup free. Okay, you still have to go to the doctor and get, if you've got the flu and you need some antibiotics, you're still going to pay for that like you do insurance. But if mental health is the issue, let's centralize on that. Let's make that the free thing that people can go get help with. I don't know. Where do we go with that one?
Well, before you get a gun, you have to have a mental health check. If that's what you're going to say it is, which I still don't think that mental health is the major issue. I mean, I do think you have to be mentally ill to do what you're doing. But saying it's someone who has mental health issues, that does a disservice to them.
Right. Exactly.
When is enough?
Right now. 2 years ago? No, 1999. 20 years, 25 years ago? When did it start? When did this stuff start? That's when it was enough. That was when it should have stopped at that point, and everyone should have said, screw your Second Amendment rights. We're going to rewrite the Second Amendment for this. And I'm not, that's my opinion. I don't agree with the fact that I think the Second Amendment still guarantees people the ability to purchase something to protect themselves in both time of personal protection in a time of war. I appreciate that, but it is written way too wide at this point. It is written way too wide open to let everybody do whatever they want with a weapon at this point,
Yeah.
personally. So,
And I wish that I had the answer. And I'm sure everybody says that, but, let's discuss it and let's hear people out. Let's
yeah,
not just be closed minded fools and just say, well, prayer and thoughts will change this, because it's not changing it. It's getting
yeah,
worse. And,
yeah.
I don't know.
And good point, though. Good point. I've, we've got our opinions. This was our opinion, but we want to hear everything. I want to hear your side of it. I
Yeah.
want to hear if you're angry, but I also want to hear what your solution is. I don't want to hear you're not taking my guns away. I don't want to hear it's against the Second Amendment. I don't want to hear we need free healthcare. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what your middle of the road at the table solution is. I don't want your side of it to be right. I want you to come in the middle and find out where we can stop this from happening on a regular basis and make everyone at least somewhat happy in this. That's my say in it.
And I agree. I it's just difficult to find words for these type of things, because
It is.
I have kids, I have a spouse, I have a family, I have
Mm-hmm.
friends, and they matter to me. Um, and you know, just to have, if it was one of those people that got shot, and I would just hear, well, my thoughts and prayers are for you. Thank you. But where's the change that could have prevented this? Um, that's what I want to see. I just want to see us move in a direction that starts to, make that graph go back down, and hopefully to zero, because it should not be happening. It should not be happening.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's leave the table open. Let people come to us and give us their opinions.
I agree. Please do. Please do.
Yep. If you want to reach out to us at meet me at the table podcast at gmail.com. We have, what's the new website? I'm going
So
to
we
mess it up
have
a
a
little.
link tree, but let's give him credit. My brother Jeremy Duenas, and if you haven't listened to the last Everyone Has a Story, Jeremy, my brother, joined us, and he actually gifted us a URL. Makes it easier, that provides us to all of our links and our episodes. It is me http colon // I don't think you need to write that, but it's meet me at the table .show.
Yep. That'll
So
give you all the links to wherever you can find our show,
yeah.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, all those places you can find normal podcasts. It's going to be there. But yeah, again, bring it to the table and let's talk about it.
And hopefully by the time this airs, there is no more shootings.
Agreed.